The most dangerous place for a woman is her own home. This is where she's subject to physical, psychological, and sexual violence.
It was a horror. I lived with a monster. He beat me so hard, he tried to kill me.
1 in 3 women in Germany is affected by violence. Partners and ex-partners are the greatest threats.
Male and violence. You could definitely say they belong together in a sentence.
Why do we speak so little about gender-specific violence causing injury, even death?
We live in a violent environment, but it's perpetually normalized, as if there's nothing to stop men from attacking women.
I wanted to find out more about this brutality. Where does it come from? What role does shame play? And why do so many people think violence is normal? A morning somewhere in Germany. I'm not permitted to say which city I'm in and can't show the entire facade of this building, so the women and children who live here remain protected. I'm visiting a women's shelter. The women here start the week by having breakfast together and discussing their tasks. Then they're off to programs like art therapy or yoga.
Cleaning the laundry room? It's Green's turn, isn't it?
The women who live here have all experienced violence. Alexandra, who has run the shelter since 2006, explains its main purpose.
The most significant thing we offer is a framework for protection and security, and simply the opportunity for women to collect themselves, because violence is very, very wounding and destructive to self-esteem. This is where women find the space to develop strength.
The shelter is home to 6 women and 7 children at the moment. Their ages vary and they come from different countries and all walks of life. The women are assigned a few community tasks but mostly take care of themselves. They go shopping, cook and do laundry. Staying here costs 20 euros a night. Cloud shows me the laundry room. I'm calling her that to protect her identity. When she was 14, she came to Germany from Turkey and was forced to marry a man twice her age. She experienced all types of violence.
I was condemned to live a life I didn't want, subjected to brutal violence, wasn't permitted to learn German, had no social life and was forbidden to speak to people. It was like living in prison.
The mother of 3 cries as she relates how she always dreamt of singing and wasn't allowed to do even that. Cloud uses a translation app to tell me how she was verbally mistreated by her husband and in-laws. That's violence too. In her messages, I read things like, "They took my underwear with them to Turkey and handed it out to men," and "humiliating." On average, a partner or ex-partner commits violence against a woman in Germany every 4 minutes. Nearly 133,000 women were affected by gender-specific violence in 2023. Statistics based only on filed complaints. In fact, 1 in 3 women in Germany is affected. That's more than 12 million people. I've traveled to Berlin to meet Christina Klemm, a lawyer. She's been representing women who've been affected by violence for 3 decades. I ask her, is violence simply a part of the society we live in?
We live in a violent environment, but it's perpetually normalized, as if there's nothing to stop men from attacking women, as if it were something you just have to accept. There was a survey a few months ago on Twitter. Who would women rather meet when they're alone in the woods, a man or a bear? 90% of the women said they'd prefer a bear because they could run away from it. And that's a dreadful statement.
I've traveled to Ulm to meet a perpetrator. I'll call him Michael. He beat his partner several times. A year ago, after an argument, he called the police himself. I want to know why he resorted to violence.
Schwierig zu sagen.
Hard to say. At that moment, I really didn't realize I'd done it. It was a kind of helplessness. I wanted to clear the air, but it didn't work. And then I simply tried to master the situation in a different way, so that she would quiet down, as if the slap in the face would wake her up.
If I've understood you correctly, you didn't have the tools to handle it. You didn't know what else to do.
Yes, in that moment, it was like I had tunnel vision or something. I thought, this has got to stop. And then it happened.
On his own, Michael sought help at a psychological counseling center. That's an exception. Here, he works in group and individual sessions to process the incident and is provided with methods to avoid violence.
Last time we talked for a long time about where you can go, where to find people you can trust, where you know all you need to do is call and say, yes, hello, can I come over?
I'm a person who doesn't like asking for help.
You don't like asking for help, but who called the police? Who called the ambulance? That's help.
Yeah, that's different somehow. That's her job. Friends and acquaintances. I don't want to burden them with this stuff.
Social worker and educator Mario Starr has been working with perpetrators for 8 years. They are between 18 and 80 years old. They too come from all walks of life. Any man can be a perpetrator. Mario says violence is a societal problem.
We live in a society that is much more patriarchal than we care to admit. I think it starts with things like the toys boys and girls play with. What images of masculinity do most children and young people grow up with? Masculinity and violence remain closely linked. I have to show that I'm strong and that I'm somehow masculine. And if I'm not, what am I then?
Most men, including me, have a false image of being a man. I personally grew up with an image of masculinity that was, you have to be a man, you have to be tough, and show no feelings.
Being a man means being strong and warrants being violent. But that's not all. The case of Gisèle Pelicot is one of the most notorious cases of gender-specific violence. For 10 years, husband Dominique secretly plied her with sedatives, offered her up for rape on the internet, and filmed the abuse. He and 50 men faced charges in court. Half of them were abused as children themselves. That doesn't justify their deeds, but it does show what studies have indicated. Experiencing violence in childhood increases the probability that a person resorts to violence later on. Back at the women's shelter, we meet Anna. Social worker Uli is helping her to fill out forms.
We'll start here, with a permission to publicize private data, meaning may the children be photographed.
Yes, but not their faces.
Agreed. That's dangerous.
Anna has been living here for a year. She's considered to be especially in need of protection because her husband tried to kill her and threatened her and the lives of their children several times. She's still processing what happened.
I fight with these demons every day. That's what I do when I'm in therapy. It's a long process. A couple of months ago, I had these panic attacks. I was scared of everything. I was always looking over my shoulder, thinking maybe he's behind me. Maybe he'll find me.
She cries as she describes the morning her husband nearly strangled her.
He was completely drunk that day. He was so furious, but I tried not to provoke him. I tried to stay calm. It happened so fast. He came to me with his hands like this, and he tried to choke me. He called me all sorts of names and said, "You must die. You don't respect me. You're not listening to what I'm saying." I said, "I can't breathe. Leave me alone. I have 2 children."
Beatings and verbal assaults were part of Anna's daily life, but she still wanted to stay in the relationship.
It was difficult to admit that I was living with a violent husband. I was ashamed to say I'm living in a toxic relationship. I was simply ashamed. Instead, I tried hard to save my marriage and keep mother and father together.
Women feel shame when their partner is violent to them. There is, for example, the question, why didn't you leave earlier? So that shifts things to the women. Actually, she's to blame, rather than asking, why did he keep beating her? She is made to feel shame, because people say, look, such a self-confident woman, and she allows herself to be beaten? Nobody allows that. Women are beaten. There are so many narratives that actually push the blame onto women, and then they're ashamed. And that is wrong. That's a very patriarchal narrative.
Oli shows me the playroom, because a women's shelter is also a refuge for children. It isn't just mothers who must leave everything behind. The children do too. Their toys, their friends. They can't reveal where they live and are not allowed to invite friends over. At the same time, their fathers use them for leverage. Here, these children are safe, can play and learn applying rules like no means no. Most important of all,
breaking the cycle of violence and showing a different way to handle things. Some men manage to do it. They go to therapy, get help, learn new ways to behave. But those are the exceptions.
Counseling sessions have helped Michael to open up and to confide in others.
It did some good to see myself and other men, and how close we all were to tears, showing emotions. That was a very good feeling. Above all, it's good to know you're not alone.
He has also shared his story.
My whole family knows about it. I'm not proud of it at all, but I want my family or my friends to really know who I am. Most of them see me as someone who's reliable, and then I'll say, hey, I'm no saint. Sometimes I've also made a damned mess of things too, like now.
This site is a place to look for available spaces at women's shelters. You can enter the place you live and then what kind of space you're seeking, with or without children. You can also search in the vicinity.
Okay, let's give it a try. Here, for example, with 2 children in Berlin.
In a 50-kilometer radius?
Yes.
I couldn't find any shelters within a radius of 50 kilometers. There's no space available in Berlin.
Okay, you put in 50 kilometers. Let's try 100.
Right, we can increase it to 100 kilometers. There's nothing available there either.
You've also had situations where women have called here and the shelter is full. What do you tell them? Try someplace else? What do you say?
Then I always direct them to this page. I ask if they have internet access and are able to research it themselves. Or I also offer to check where there are spaces for them. I pass on telephone numbers and so on. Honestly, I don't give it much thought. If I were to mull it over every time I had to refuse a woman, What happens now? What will happen to her? That would be too much for me. That would really overwhelm me. That's why I think pass on the numbers and she'll find a place. And after all, I'm first of all responsible for the women who live here.
But that means you often have to turn women away.
Yes,
Experts say Germany doesn't have a comprehensive policy to combat gender-specific violence. If a woman who's been abused has the strength and money, she can find a room like this one. Currently, there are 7,700 of them. Yet, according to the Istanbul Convention to Combat Violence Against Women, there's a need for 21,000. There's also only limited funding for working with perpetrators. As for the legal side of things,
we still have an unbelievable number of case terminations. There's still serious minimization of violence in partnerships. You might be able to get a conviction after 3 or 4 years. We need much faster proceedings. We need to stop these perpetrators more quickly. Tell them clearly, we won't tolerate what's happening here. And it doesn't depend at all on the severity of the sentence. Instead, it's about reacting quickly.
What would people who help affected women and perpetrators like to see?
We need more ways to offer support and protection. Women should have access to counseling, something which would perhaps prevent making a stay in a women's shelter necessary. But for the women who then decide to go to a shelter, they should have easy access to spaces. And on a broader societal level, violence like this should be banned and condemned much more.
Michael says his relationship is now free of violence. And he's trying to get more therapy. What is his message for violent men?
Just stop that crap. There's help available. If you want it, you'll get it. And it would be nice if men would accept the help, because violence against women is a no-go. Unacceptable.
Anna has found an apartment and will soon be leaving the women's shelter with her children. As a parting gift, she's leaving a self-portrait that she painted here.
I want to send a message to all women. Never give up the fight. Fight for your dreams. Find your inner light because it's in your heart. And don't lose hope. Keep your chin up every time in every moment. Fight.
There is only one way out of the maze: willpower. This quote from a former resident hanging on a wall in the shelter applies not only to women, but also to men who want to break the cycle of violence. Cloud is learning German and writing a book about her experiences.
Here it's not about taking care of others anymore or being afraid of being beaten today. No, now I have my life. I can say, that's my coffee, I paid for it. That might not be a feeling everyone can understand, but for me it's a really proud feeling.
And she can finally sing again.